Hello everyone and welcome to Rose Plays. I'm going to be playing Roman's Christmas. It's the only game I have that has Christmas in the title. So, forewarning, it's a visual novel, as most mystery games are. And the main characters happen to be animals. So, let's get started. Hi, kawaii. The snow has stopped. A lonely Lupine Detective slowly pushed his way against the snow. It was a familiar pathway he followed, his footsteps heavy on the snow-buried stone pavement as he approached his destination. Day 1, 23rd December, 1285. There's 2 days until Christmas and 2 days to... Oh, I guess I should do a voice if I'm not in a minute into my fast. As nice as it is to feast on Christmas, I can't stomach a month-long fast. A whole month without any meat would certainly turn any wolf into a hare. Next time, I'm not fasting for a month just to solve a case. Lucky for me, I closed my last case before it ruined my vacation at the White Star Tavern. I'm not going to let another case interrupt my vacation. Not even a murder. I pulled my fur coat tighter and continued to walk against the cold wind towards the distant tavern. I'm gonna interject here. An animal. A lupine. Another word for a wolf. Wonderful coat. And he's got a fur coat. I don't want to know what kind of fur he made that out of. Hopefully, I don't think there's humans in this universe, but still, that means he had to go find another one of his kind and take their pelt. Okay, now, let's get back to the story. I finally saw the sun of the White Star just as a warm breath came coming out of me began to freeze against my snout. That's wrong. I wonder why the tavern keeper won't move to a better spot. If it weren't for their excellent cider, a tavern this far from downtown wouldn't last a year. The door's hinges creaked as I pushed it open. The warm scent of fireplace, smoke, cooking bacon, and wheat bread encircled me. Several old painted portraits of white fur dragons decorate the walls, each one exquisitely painted. What kind of voice to give this dragon? Haven't seen you for a while. What would you like to have today? Zarn was dusting one of his precious portraits when I entered the cavern. He paused just long enough to speak, then continued his work. Why doesn't a Zuri-scaled dragon like him love white-furred dragons so much? Maybe I'll never know. Same as usual, but my fast doesn't break until the day after tomorrow. Got it. Zarzan. By the way, I'm gonna scribble the name. I'm gonna call him Zar. Put down the duster, then wiped his hands with a cloth at the counter before grabbing a beer mug and making his way towards the cellar. I hung my coat on the hat stand and sat beside the fireplace to warm myself up. What a coincidence to meet you here. What about buying me a drink to celebrate this moment? Anzox must have heard me come in and rose up from the corner and approached me, bringing his flute with him. He's a bard, but one without a patron to support his artistic career. He's also something a detective fanatic, though. I doubt if he has the necessary talents to actually be one. Nowadays, he travels between taverns to sing for his supper, all while hoping to find some rich, noble patron who'll appreciate his talent and shower him with wealth. Oh, what a coincidence. I'm flattered that Roman, the great detective, still remembers me. I'd never forget a guy who can distract me every time when possible. Not on purpose, but still impressive. Of course I do. You left such an impression on me last time. When I was trying to solve the case and you... I'm real sorry about that, please no. Enox fled clutching his loot. Great, saved a pint from myself. It's almost dinner time, but there's no other customers here. Is it because of the heavy stove? I'm starting to feel thirsty after staying by the fireplace for too long. What's keeping Tarzan from bringing up the booze? It's either going to be Tarzan or Tarzan, but I'm going to say Tarzan. As I looked around, I spotted a guy covered in a priestly robe and veil, wearing a silver cross and curled up at a corner table. I'm just gonna say I'm not gonna be able to say a lot of the stuff that I see, probably. Omega crust, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember my Roman stuff. I can't make out his face in the candlelight. His mug of cider is still full and untouched. Who in the hell would, is that a disguise? Hasn't he heard a saying about tigers changing their stripes? Sarn came out from behind the counter and handed me a mug of cider along with a note. That's elegant. If you find out anything regarding her, keep it to yourself. Her? Whatever, I've seen stranger things. I shoved the note up my sleeve, drank a cup of cider, and purposely let out a loud about. That's not a good burp. I know. I relaxed in my usual chair. Whoa, good lord. Enjoying myself in the quiet and familiar atmosphere of the White Star Tavern. Looks like we're the only people here tonight. The logs in the fireplace were making tiny crackling sounds. Zarn sat behind the counter reading a cookbook his father left him, and Zox was playing his lute. Elegant had gone upstairs a while ago. Maybe I'll live here after I retire if I have the money. Assuming the White Star keeps its comforting atmosphere till then. Come to think of it, what should I do to kill the time before dinner is served? I brought a book called A Brief History of Appalachian with me to do some reading during my vacation. Oh, although I don't really think this little book can tell me anything about my homeland I don't already know. Okay, 1 second. We're gonna save, I guess. And then I don't... What's this? We're gonna turn the sound effects down. Let's see. So, this is us. Roman, a gray wolf, 32 years old. I'm a detective by profession. Zarn, an Azure scale dragon, 40 years old, that runs the White Star Tavern, loves white furry dragons. He's a great cook. Anzox, a red dragon with a blood mane, 30 years old. Oh, blonde mane. Whoops. Who works as a traveling bard. He is fun, detective puzzle, and always together with his loot. Elegant and mysterious person. I failed to notice that she was a woman. So let's see, music volume's not too bad. We'll just turn that down just a little more. I could also check out White Star's special Christmas menu. I can't have any meat for another 2 days, but a glimpse of a good menu and a little bit of imagination won't break the rules. Maybe I'll just take a nap. I could use a good nap after losing sleep for almost a month. What should I do before dinner? A brief history of Appalachian. Look at White Star's menu. Take a nap. Well, we can't have food, right? According to him, he's still in his bath. So looking at the menu is called torture. Take a nap always sounds good. Like, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but I don't. You know, because I don't feel well, but I feel like I'd rather just set up in a brief history of Apollyon, although I don't know what that is. Apparently he does, but we'll find out. Sorry if I'm very loud, by the way. Let's do that. Might as well do some serious reading. I took out the book, A Brief History of Appalachian. I borrowed from a crime scene for my bag. It's a cheap little book, printed with movable type printing and distributed among the citizens of Apollyon. The king believes that if the citizens know more about the country's history, they'll be more loyal. Thus, he rewarded the minister who invented the printing technique and built 3 machines to print these things day and night. Although most of the books handed out in the slums ended up being more useful for starting fires than quality toilet paper, still, it's better than nothing. A Brief History of Apollyon. Dedicated to the great Helios II, may God bless him and his subjects, and may the sun shine upon this glorious land forever. Apollyon, the country you live in, was established by the father of Helios II, Helios I, the pioneer. On 4th September 1169, a great earthquake endangered the reign of the ruling nobles. After the earthquake brought as God's punishment on the blasphemous nobility, God chose Helios I, the pioneer, to execute his divine wrath. Helios I, the pioneer, led his loyal soldiers of various species from Rhemph, our glorious capital, and created the county of Apollyon that we now know. Helios I noticed the strife and discrimination caused by age-old hatreds between species. Thus he decreed that all species in Apollyon would be equal. On 1st of September 1230, Helios II ascended to the throne after Helios' first demise. Truly a blessed land of equality. Siren came out of the kitchen and brought me a plate of smoked herring and pale ale. Oh, thanks. That's almost meat, huh? Pity I can't serve you clams in the cold weather. At least it's better than carrots. Fortunately, we still have some smoked herring. I'd have to serve you carrot stew otherwise. Bon appetit! Returned to the kitchen, they brought Anzox a bowl of lamb stew. I'm jealous. Elegant came downstairs, hesitated a moment, then took a seat at the corner of a table. She glanced at me and I quickly looked elsewhere. Christmas Carol, Chapter 0. Cool. After dinner, I sank into a rocking chair near the fire and let myself relax. The logs on the fire, heavy with pine resin, crackled and popped as the chair slowly swung back and forth with a creaky noise. Not a whole lot of customers this month. Storm brought a chair and sat down next to me, gazing into the fireplace. Don't worry so much, just give it a couple days. You'll have as many customers you had in the years before. I get the feeling this year might be a little different. Can't really tell why, though. Perhaps the howling winds outside are keeping the customers away. As I heard our conversation, came to join us with his lute. I'm gonna forget their accents, so just letting you know. As if something as minor as high winds could stop folk from having cravings for sauce and famous home cooking. Flatter me all you like, you're still not getting a discount. I was being sincere. Though I wouldn't mind a discount. The White Star has a variety of activities to entertain overnight guests and those who stick around after dinner. There's a dart competition Saturday evening. If all the players are friendly and there's no authorities around, Sarn would cover some tables with blue flannel and take bets. I doubt anybody like that would be out in this weather. I elbow Sarn quietly and give him a wink. Not tonight. He glanced towards Elegant before whispering to me with one hand hiding his mouth. After all, we don't know her that well. Let's hold off on the gambling for the time being. You know, it's kind of hard to tell who's talking, so I might do the wrong voices. Well, if you think of something else, let me know. I'll see if I can help keep myself occupied. Wrong voice. What did you want to do tonight? Talk to Elegant, listen to Anzox's music, having no idea now. I doubt she's gonna talk to us, but let's try to talk to her. By the way, I don't know Elegant very well. I asked her quietly when Anzox won't notice. I walked towards the round table she was sitting at before pulling out a chair, taking a seat, and offering my hand. Hello, I'm Roman. I waited for Elegant to reach out for a handshake, but it seemed she didn't want to. My right hand hovered in the air as awkwardly as the silence. Hello. I'm apologize if I'm disturbing you. I was about to push my chair away in the embarrassing conversation before it started, but paused as she motioned for me to stay seated. She looked me up and down slowly. I could almost feel the weight of those lake blue eyes through that thin veil. As a detective used to observing others, I know how uncomfortable it is to be examined so thoroughly by such a sharp and intense gaze. You are on good terms with the owner of this tavern, are you not? Well, you could say that, but how can you tell? The way you pass information is too obvious. I felt naked. It was like her eyes were peering through me and into my soul. You need not fret. I do not care about your business. I would imagine a detective like you has more than a few informants. Didn't notice until now that I was involuntarily biting my left thumb. It's a nervous tick I've had since I was young. I still haven't managed to break the habit. No need to be polite. Just tell me why you came to me. Well, if you insist. Relieved, I unclenched my fist and took out my handkerchief to wipe the sweat from the pads. I actually came in to ask your race, your stature, your gender. Well, we know she's female. Your race. May I ask what your species is? I am feline, can you not tell? Or has the great detective been dazzled by my looks? There was a teasing glitter in those blue eyes under the veil, like a particularly clever child who just fooled a teacher. Shame on me. At this moment, Anzad suddenly came up. Still deep. Wrong voice. Still deep in conversation, are we? I thought you were talking about nothing, so I thought I'd join in. Trust me, we've got plenty to talk about. By the way, I heard a puzzle in a tavern from another town. Would you be interested? Sorry, we're kind of in the middle of... What's the puzzle? Elegant seemed interested, taking her mug and sitting down with Anzox by the fire. Playing a puzzle game again, Enzox. Darn just finished cleaning the kitchen and came to sit by the fire. Yes, you just came in time. I'm not really in the mood. Hear a story, go to rest. We could hear a story and talk to them, or we can rest. Let's listen to the stories. It's not like you have got anything better to do. You can just listen and let us solve the puzzle if you want. I'd better do it by myself than leaving it to you guys. Let's start at Anzox. Anzox cleared his throat, then caressed his lute and said, One night, in a small farming town famous for its barley, the only windmill in town came to a stop. This is the first time it happened. Since the mill was so vital to their work, the villagers rushed out to check the mill. From afar, the villagers saw the windmill blades were no longer rotating. They thought that the sudden wind and snow had broken the transmission shaft that ran the mill. The villagers came to the mill, the ground covered in thick snow over their ankles. The dark wooden mill towered over them in the white expanse. The blades turned in an ominous position looking like an inverted cross. I assumed this was a puzzle, not some bottle you used to coax coins from drunkards. Elegance twirled swishes. She impatiently drummed her fingers on the table, while Zarin sat and listened attentively. It's not as though you're paying me, so just sit and listen. Ahem. Allow me to continue. As they drew closer, they found the windmill's maintenance gondola was tied with a hemp rope to secure it. Please click the clue button to view specific evidence. Safety rope. Ordinary rope tying the miller on the maintenance basket. But then they saw it. The miller around the mill was suspended upside down in the middle of the air. His eyes were wide open with fear. His face contorted as though he was screaming in terror. His paws were stiff and hanging down and level on the edge of the windmill blades. The snow for yesterday clung to his cold body. How ironic. The object used to ensure safety had become a lethal weapon. No one can imagine that. Miller's body was hanging upside down, his head leveled with the windmill blades. Lethal. Wait a minute, Anzox. Did the safety rope really cause the death of the miller? Do you disagree, Roman? After all, the safety rope was tied to the miller's dead body. Yes, but why can't the safety rope be the murder weapon? Was it tied around his waist? Let's see if there's... Wasn't tied around his neck. Tied around the waist? I don't think it was tied to the ankle. It's tied to the ankle? He can't be deadly if it's tied to the ankle. Is he like the sport from overseas? What did they call it? Bungee jumping? Correct. A safety rope is typically tied to the ankle or waist. Considering the position of the body, the only possible way was tied to the ankle. That is indeed true, but there must be something that killed the miller. We can discuss that next. Go on then, Anson. Anzox. As I was saying, the miller had died in a windmill, where he had spent his nights and days. The local police initially determined that the old miller was trying to repair the windmill while he was drunk. He had slipped, lost his footing, and fallen from the repair gondola. However, the cause of death was still unclear, though his head might have struck the windmill. The townsfolk brought one of the greatest detectives to the room to investigate the scene. The miller was killed soon to return home since he was still in his coat. The person in the town had an alibi when he died. The body had no wounds. He may have actually slipped and fell from the hanging basket when repairing the windmill. Cause of death is unknown. Maybe he struck his head on the mill. Or he froze to death. He was an old-fashioned detective and refused until he was paid no less than 13 riyal in all travel expenses. 13 right now, that's 910 states. For just one case, the detective could eat fried lamb chops every meal for a month if he hadn't vowed to fast until Christmas. I wish my cases paid that well. Do they not? Do they not? I thought you were both the price. You were worth the price. Or the price, huh? And I started to laugh, but stopped when I glared at When the damn folks came to his humble residence, he was seated behind his great desk playing with a prism he had bought from the capital's Grand Bazaar. Sunlight from the small window passed through the lens and scattered into a rainbow color. After listening to the villager's account, the detective struggled to get up from his easy chair with a cane, then asked his only servant to call the carriage. This would be one of his few failed investigations. One problem was that the description of the crime scene is not detailed enough to his liking. Another problem was that the case sounded so bizarre. And the biggest problem was that the glib bar could not get to the... The biggest problem was that the glib bar could not get to the point, huh? Then why don't you tell the story? The senator of the main answer blushed for anger. It's fine, the details makes the story more vivid, even if they are irrelevant. The day after the body was discovered, the detective arrived at the town in the afternoon. He learned from the gossip in the tavern that on the night of the mill's death, 2 people spent the night in the mill, but they both had alibis. Who were they? One was the miller's daughter, and the other is the miller's apprentice. They had spent the night in the mill as usual. About those 2 people, I'd like to know. Hold on. I'd like to know about the miller's daughter. I'd like to know about the miller's daughter. Elena, the miller's daughter, she's 16-year-old and a grey wolf. She had no shortage of suitors in town, and even got the eye of a few local nobles. Not just because of her father's wealth, mind you. She was also renowned for her beauty. She had been the dream girl of every bachelor in town since she was 14 years old. She had a good relationship with her father, at least on the outside, I thought so. I would also want to know about the apprentice. What about the miller's apprentice? The apprentice's name was Hans. He came to the mill from the next town 8 years ago. At that time he was just 10 years old and all alone in the world. No parent could be so cruel if it were for the money. Fortunately, the miller treated him well. The apprentice was also very clever. He always seemed to be able to succeed no matter how complicated the miller's orders. Recently, there was a rumor that he had a close relationship with the miller's daughter. Let me think. Hmm. Let me think. Go on, please. I have to say those two caught my interest. Please go on. What about the miller's reputation? The miller had lived his entire life in the town and had no enemies. He was well regarded by the townsfolk. His wife died of puerperal fever shortly after she gave birth to Elena, and he had lived as an old bachelor ever since. He had several drinking friends who he met with in the pub almost every night after supper, drinking and talking until the tavern closed. It sounds like some of the tavern's regular. Some folk at the tavern provided a detective with additional information. The miller had extremely generous recently, and one day he even bought everyone in tavern around the bell in celebration. That's all the information on those present. Having gotten his full of gossip from the noisy drinkers in the tavern, the detective left the tavern and went walking towards the mill. Within 10 minutes, the detective arrived at the mill. It was a clear and windless morning. The snow at the gate of the mill hadn't been swept away by the overzealous villagers. The detective, relieved and cautious, checked the snow from the outside. The snow was unexpectedly cleaned. Apart from the footprints left by the villagers who found the corpse in the outer circle, and the footprints that went all the way to the front of the house. There was nothing except some messy traces from the last footprints. It seems that there was no shortcut or alternative interest. The detective put on his hat and came to the mill door. He glanced down by accident before he entered the door. There seemed to be a circular imprint around the last footprints in front of the door, and the stone used to hold the door open had also been moved. Stepping inside, the detective met Elena, who was covering her face and crying, and Hans, who was comforting her. The body of the old miller was still hanging on the windmill, swinging like a pendulum in the wind. Do you want to listen to the testimony first or go straight to the scene? Hear the testimony and investigate the scene. Well, dadgone, I was expecting to get into a actual thing. Let's save. Let's listen to the testimony. Let's hear the testimony. Perhaps you should investigate the scene first in case something gets disturbed. Not to mention the witness does not seem to be emotionally stable. Maybe you should listen to her. No, she is a... The glare came to Elena's fellow should have set Anna on fire, so he shut his mouth tactfully. The detective first went up the stairs to check the scene of the death. Hans eyes quickly sketched something on a piece of paper and handed it over. The mill is divided into 3 floors. He needs about as tall as 5 people. Between the maintenance and the gondola on the 3rd floor and the window on the 2nd floor is a connecting shaft between the fan blade and the mill. The maintenance gondola is extremely narrow and long and about as wide as an adult's foot. There was a layer of snow over it, but no footprints. 2 ropes were tied at the railing of the basket. The left part was covered with snow like the other parts of the railing. There was no snow on the right part. The detective leaned against the railing and looked down. Under the wooden railing hung the cold body of the miller. The rope on the left was only a section of rope, head swaying in the wind like a peddler who dared not go home without a cell. As he tried to lean out further, the railing creaked under the pressure. The snow fell from the inclined railing, falling and disintegrated in the air. The detective's biological instincts kicked in, his fur bristling involuntarily. He pulled back quickly, intending to check the situation at the entrance. Putting his right hand against his gold-grasping dagger he kept to defend himself from villains. It was a gift from his first love. Every time he held the dagger, it reminded the temperature of her palm on that fateful day. Why is that important? Are we listening to a love story or something? Please! One elegant is enough. The detective turned around and found nothing behind him. He went downstairs quietly and found the two of them were there. They were as if they had not moved. He went back to the second floor and looked up from the window. Above his head was the rotating shaft of windmill blade which gleamed black from grease from the daily rotation maintenance. The shadow cast about the rotating axis hit the detective's face. It gave him a very uncomfortable feeling, as though he was some prehistoric hunter shuddering in terror at the sight of some giant beast. The gears on the windmill were exposed about 30 centimeters away from the upper eaves of the windows. The triangular teeth were distributed around the rotating shaft. The detective put his hand into his coat pocket and gently ran his thumb across the edge of the prism he carried. Something came to mind. The detective looked out the window again. The lowest gear grove seemed to be more worn than the others. He went back to the first floor prism and living room straight into the kitchen. The oven seemed to have been used recently, and the kitchen filled with a mixture of the pungent smell of charcoal and the delicious grain smell of barley bread. He opened the oven and flicked the ashes with his stick. The shape of a piece of charcoal under the ashes reminded him of the prism in his pocket. Like a wedge. Having gathered the necessary evidence, the detective returned to the living room to question the witnesses. Noticing the detective's approach, Elena sat upright with a hand support, her eyes drooping. She was dressed in a light blue nightglass. Her eyes were red and swollen. Excuse me. Her facial fur was combed, and it was easy to see the state of disorder despite attempts to cover it. I got it. Hold on. And Knox coughed a few times when he spoke and it was in a higher feminine voice. Welcome, Mr. Detective. I assume this is a visit related to my father's death. It'd be nice if you could talk this way more often. It's really hard. It's really hard to speak like this. Come on, show us your dedication to your craft. It took the detective about 10 minutes to persuade the apprentice to go upstairs with a servant. It's one of their testimonies of lunacy other. After formally introducing himself in some brief preparation, the detective asked her to tell the story of the night. The testimony of Elena. I'm assuming this is like the tutorial, so sorry, this episode's gonna be a little long. Yesterday, after dinner, my father went to the tavern as usual. I finished my housework after about 8 o'clock. It was about 2 hours before my father came back. Nothing seemed strange. I then went up to Hans' room to chat with him. 2 hours passed by, and we didn't realize that my father had yet to return as normal. It wasn't until around 11 o'clock that I realized how late it was. I hurried downstairs thinking my father was quietly sitting in the living room, ready to scold me. But he wasn't there. The door was closed and no one was in the living room. I had a feeling that something terrible must have happened. It was like a snake had slithered under the door and crawled up my spine to whisper in my ear. I don't know if it was because of the wind or the old hinges, but the door that day was more difficult to open than usual. I pushed the door open and the wind blew the snow inside into the house. I propped the door open and made my way outside. When I got under the windmill, I had a strange thought, like an itch on my back that couldn't be scratched, and I couldn't help but look up. Hanging above my head was a purple face that was swollen and swaying in the wind. His eyes were as prominent as goldfishes. Saliva had flowed down his open, screaming mouth and frozen ice on his snout and fur. I was frightened, so I rushed back in the house and closed the door. I couldn't sleep outdoors. Every time I closed my eyes, I could still see that face. I can't believe that that was my father. As she finished her description of the horrible situation, Lena collapsed on the sofa with her hands covering her face. At this time, the detective smelled something fishy in her testimony. After thorough thought of her testimony, the detective found the irreconcilable contradiction between testimony and evidence. Hmm. 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 It doesn't say anything about the maintenance basket. Hmm. That. Hmm. Wait. So, this is gonna be a long one. Actually, after dinner, my father went to Tavern as usual. I finished my housework about 8 o'clock. It was 2 hours before my father came back. Nothing seemed strange. I then went up to Hans' room. Well, didn't he? He was found in his clothes. Well, he said 2 hours, but if he died exactly, but what evidence? It's too fishy. Far less fishy. You, for real, why am I fishy? You're distracting others with your nonsense. Which evidence contradicts Elena's testimony? Footprints. Oh, give me some. Oh, give me some details. The paradox is, no other footprints unseen. Elena will destroy footprints. No other footprints unseen. It was said earlier that only one series of footprints at the site reached the gate of the mill. Since Elena had gone out, she would have certainly left her footprints as well, although I don't know how she did it. Elena must conceal something. As for the reason, we can only go on with the inquiry. The detective tidied his sleeves and carefully pointed out the errors in Elena's testimony. As I recall, Miss Elena, you just said you went out to check outside. Yes. Then why is there only one set of footprints from the outside of the house to the gate of the mill? Wait, am I supposed to be the detective? Well, I must be so scared that my memory's confused. Let me start over. The testimony. Oh my gosh, this is like Phoenix Wright. The testimony of Elena corrected. Yesterday after dinner, my father went out to the tavern as usual. I went upstairs for hands to chat. Terrace passed by, and there was no sign from my father's return. I went downstairs around 11 and found that he had not come back. I opened the door, and my father's distorted head appeared as the body swung outside. I'm so scared that I ran back to the house and closed the door. The scene was so frightening that my memory was confused. That night, every time I closed my eyes, that terrible face would pop up. I couldn't sleep at all. As long as a lie is told, more lies are bound to be used to cover up. It's a pity that even the most talented folk can't make up every lie perfectly, let alone under such pressure. Miss Elena, there's really no need to hide anything from me. Even the detective saw through the lies she made up this time. Which evidence contradicts Elena's testimony? Is the position of the body. How could Elena see his head in a door if the miller's paws were even with the window's blades? Elena saw what she shouldn't have seen only because she was actually out there and cleaned up her footprints when she came back. Not to mention cleaning up her footprints is suspicious. Why would you need to clean your footprints if you're just a witness? Perhaps she panicked and did something that would implicate herself accidentally. Was the whole scene she described as just some sort of delusion? That would be true. As she said, you saw the face of the deceased in the door. This is definitely impossible for you to win the current position of the body. Corpses don't simply move after death, do they? How could... I don't even know. Elena screamed hysterically and ran out of the living room. It seemed that he couldn't get near her for a while. So the detective went upstairs to visit another witness, Hans. The detective saw Hans upstairs. He was wearing a soft hat, a bell-like jacket, and brown linen trousers. The dark gray eyes under the brim made the detective uncomfortable for some reason. That kind of look reminded him of a colleague he met in another case several years before. A wolf with beautiful eyes that had an unruly and wild gaze. Don't push it, you. Calm down, man. As I started to get up, I was pressed back to my seat by Zan's thick claws. He's still so sensitive about conflict between customers. 5 years ago, someone made the mistake of starting a fire in his tavern. He grabbed that guy with only one paw and threw him across the street. Somehow this attracted more customers. I still don't know what they're thinking. Are they all masochists? And the detective noticed that the hair on his pulse seemed to be darker than anywhere else. The detective's face remained unchanged. He lowered his hat to cover his spying eyes. Mr. Hans, I hope you don't mind. I'm just doing my job. The detective sat in the wooden chair opposite Hans and handed his cane to the servant beside him. I would like to hear about what happened last night. So straightforward, Mr. Detective. I sure will try my best. The testimony of Hans. Now, I will try not to do an accent, but we don't know. Yesterday after dinner, like every other night, the miller went to the pub to pass the time. Elena and I stayed in the mill to watch the house. We stayed in the room until 11 o'clock, then found out the miller did not come back at his usual time. Elena went downstairs to check while I hurried back to my room. It was long before I heard Elena screaming downstairs and the sound of the door being slammed. I went downstairs and saw Elena pale and slumped on the ground. I took her back to the room. She told me off and on about what she saw outside the door. I stayed at her bedside all night to keep her company. Okay. Just one question. So, is there anything suspicious? Oh gosh, I don't know how long I've been muted. Oh well. Please click the place you want to investigate in the picture. So if there was parts that were muted, I really don't feel like going back through this. See, there's the rope. The miller's ankle was tied with safety rope, cheap but reliable. The knot was a hangman's noose. And now he plans to sell us rope. I am not a merchant. The detective looked at his curled up hands, found gray fur inside his nails, which matched his own fur color. Look, he's got scratches. He put on his gloves and pulled aside Miller's coat and revealed his thick fur. He could feel the liquefying fat under the miller's skin. The miller looked quite plump thanks to his wealthy life. Is this even related to the case? Don't add so many pointless details to the case. Who knows? Perhaps it may be relevant somehow. He found gray hairs under the miller's nails that matched the miller's own fur color, and his skin was scratched. The detective looked close at his face. He was scared by the dead miller's twisted face, even though it wasn't the first time seeing a body. The miller's wide eyes were growing cloudy and lifeless. His wrinkles were getting clearer due to his stiff facial muscles. His mouth stayed shut, but silent fear still escaped from it. I'd been greatly frightened. The miller's fur remained fluffy with no sign of strangle marks. He got up and finished the search. Now he knew what had happened. Now let's put the pieces back together. Wait, there's still a lot of questions to be solved. Didn't you take notes for the evidence? Take a good look. It seems like the main problems with the case lie in the cause of the miller's death, whoever had killed him, whether he was murdered, and the killer's motive. The process of how the case happened is also noteworthy. It's important to confirm the sequence of events. We should focus on the factors that change with time, such as weather. Quick Q&A. Please click the mobile icon to answer questions. Weapon. What's your opinion on a murder weapon? What's a murder weapon? Looks like shock. Maybe it was an invisible weapon. Interesting. How about murdering with a shock which was caused by the sudden drop? Not everyone was so easily scared as you are. But anyone would be shocked if they were hung without any preparation. Let alone a drunk, overweight miller. Indeed, I suppose a certain death would be possible because of those external factors. Seems like this time the detail wasn't just to add dramatic flair. Of course, every detail is necessary. So, why did you take nearly half an hour to describe the suspects? Shh! Method. Modus operandi. What was the process of crime? Deductive reasoning. Arrange the occurrence chronologically from top to bottom by dragging chips to each position. The rope left a circular mark on the ground. The suspect didn't lift the Miller into the air. Let's see. Right now, right now there are 4 chips in that position. It will help a lot if you arrange the event in chronological order. You can manage your thoughts about the case much easier in this way. Sort the 5 chips from the top to bottom and place your bet without hesitation. Easy peasy. The suspect dropped the rope from the maintenance basket. The rope left a circular manner. First exclude impossible options. Say, oh jeez. Seems right. Luck may have been a component, but it's not impossible. The motive. Let's talk about the motive then. First of all, we already established Miller got along well with the villagers. So what could be motive for the murder be? What else a motive? Personal grudge? Money relations? Family conflict? Daughter's relationship? The Miller wouldn't allow the relationship between his daughter and the apprentice. Do you mean someone murdered him so the pair could be together? It's unnecessary to kill him just because of disagreement, though. So that means something recently happened to provoke the culprit into killing the Miller quickly. The identity criminal is obvious. Even so, there's no need to kill him. Who is the culprit? I think it's obvious now the criminal is. Who's the criminal? Both of them. It was both of them. Yep, they share the common benefit in the operational trap needs cooperation. Then the whole picture of this case is crystal clear. How come you're so excited since you aren't the one who solves the puzzle? I'm just excited to see you work, okay? So the whole story of the case is case playback. The Miller was a nice guy, but he was particularly picky about his daughter's relationships, especially the relationship with his apprentice. But even he couldn't stop their love from blossoming. The 2 young people seized every moment they got to be together. And this situation had been going on for a while. As eager as they were to be open with their relationship, they couldn't bear the Miller's denial of their love any longer. All of a sudden, the Miller made an important decision. That is, the Miller betrothed his daughter. The Miller agreed to the marriage. The Miller had picked out a satisfactory candidate among his daughter's suitors and announced his decision to her. The Miller thought he had arranged a good marriage naturally. His special generosity made his acquaintances at the tavern extremely enthusiastic, which is why they decided to kill the Miller that night. The lovers were supposed to escape to the night after they finished the deed, but the heavy snow and another accident forced them to change their plan. After Miller went out, Hans tied a noose with a safety rope and lowered it down from the 3rd floor maintenance gondola. By the way, the noose is the method used to hang murderers. The original plan might have been for Elena to meet the Miller on the 1st floor, but the knot hanging from the windmill around its neck. Then Elena sent a signal to Hans, let him pull up the rope to hang the miller. But even the calmest people make a costly mistake when they kill for the first time. At about 10 o'clock, Hans, whose hands shook when he got nervous, lost his grip on the rope and dropped the knot in the snow, leaving a circular imprint. Elena, who had just opened the door and was ready to greet her father, saw the noose fall to the ground. She probably wanted to warn Hans to take it back, but the miller was already close by then. It would attract the miller's attention if the rope was pulled back up. The murder attempt should have failed by that point, but by sheer coincidence, Miller took a wrong step that changed the whole thing. Miller stepped into the ring. I trapped the Miller with the ring. He stepped into the ring. He stepped into the noose by accident. At that time, Hans had just grasped the rope outside the maintenance gondola. When the miller's palm moved forward in the snow, the rope was pulled. Hans felt the pull and instantly pulled up the rope, according to the original plan, pulling the miller up by his ankle. The miller fell on the snow before he was pulled into the air, leaving the messy marks in front of footprints as he struggled. Hans hung the miller in the air, dared not to let go of the rope, and let him struggle in the air. After a while of struggling and cursing, the face of the miller changed from red to purple. As he moved and more blood rushed to his head, his moves became weaker and weaker until they stopped. Elena and Hans wanted to escape after the comedy of success, but finally decided to discuss seeing if the miller had actually died and planned their testimonies. After all, as long as they could get rid of suspicion of murder, they could inherit the mill. The reward for taking such a risk was extremely good. Hans tied the safety rope to the maintenance gondola, pretending that the miller had tried to rope himself. Tied the rope himself. However, it had snowed by that time. The rope tied to the fence pushed the snow off, therefore there was no snow on the right side. He also struck a wooden wedge in the windmill gear and made the windmill stop spinning. At the distance, villagers saw the windmill stopped. They would naturally think that the miller accidentally fell and died after repairing the windmill. The morning the detective arrived was sunny and windless. The windmill wouldn't spin even without the wooden wedge stuck in it. This was his chance to throw the wedge into the bread stove and destroy the evidence. Then all he needed to do was just go back to the room and wait until dawn. If you don't look closely at the scene, you would think that the miller died by accident. Although it looks intriguing at first, it's actually a novice puzzle with many loopholes. Next time, I'll give the legendary detective Roman a much more difficult puzzle. After a long investigation, the detective told everyone his interferences in the tavern and left the final decision to the villagers. The snow stopped. The detective opened the door of the snow-covered tavern. Thick snow still covered the paved road, and the detective set foot on the road home. It's late. Looks like there won't be any more customers tonight, so I'm going to close up for the night. If you need anything, please come to the third floor to find me. Soren gave me an elegant the room keys, closed the tavern, and went upstairs. Then perhaps it's time for me to go upstairs. I dare not risk being locked out if it's too late. Too late. There are 3 beds in the attic. Soren usually has 2 beds for himself, so he can have enough space to stretch his limbs. The third bed is usually rented at a low price to acquaintances who need accommodation on a tight budget, such as Anzocs. Elegant and I sat at the same round table, staring at each other silently. Is there anything else to do tonight? We're gonna save. I think I've done enough because I don't want to start a puzzle. So I think on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and end, and I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Please hit like and subscribe to see more content.